Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. And today we're going to look at some brand new Stellar Crown decks from Japan that are winning. Stellar Crown is coming out very, very soon, and I haven't really done any content yet on the new set, so I thought it was a good time to look at some decks from Japan with Stellar Crown and see what is doing good right now and how the decks are being built as we look ahead to our next format here. Of course, Stellar Crown coming out is going to shake up the format quite a bit. I think a lot of people right now are not really too happy about our current Shrouded Fable format, so it'll be nice to have this new format come out, really start to shake things up, and kind of make the format potentially even better. We will have to see, but I do have some decks here pulled up. We got Terapagos, Galvantula, and Hydrapple EX here pulled up. Those are the decks we're going to look at today. We're going to see how they're being built, what people are putting within the decks, so we can look ahead at these new archetypes and all the new cards from the new set. I'll leave a link to Book, the site I'm using, down in the description below, the site I'm using to get all of my decks from Japan from, so definitely check out the site down below. And of course, if you're new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We are on the road to 17,000 subscribers, and if you go on to enjoy the video, leave a like and let me know what Stellar Crown deck you are excited for the most when the new set drops. Now, for this video, I am going to be using Bulbapedia to look at some scans and translations, so you guys have the full context of each card and deck that we're looking at in today's video from the new set. And starting things off, we'll look at what Terapagos EX does. This is going to be the first deck we're going to look at. Now, I think Terapagos is like the poster child for Stellar Crown. This is the big new basic Pokemon coming out in the new set. And Terapagos definitely looks to be pretty interesting. It is a colorless basic Pokemon with 230 HP here, and it's got two different attacks, both of which are pretty good. You got the first attack, a Unified Beatdown, which for 2 colorless energy does 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon. Now, of course, this attack is going to be very useful with the brand new Stadium Area 0 Under Deaths, and of course, this attack makes it so that if you go second, you can't use it. So if they're trying to prevent your opponent from being able to donk you, and then, of course, it has Crown Opal, which for a Grass, Water, and a Lightning energy does 180 damage, and then during your opponent's next turn, you prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from non-basic colorless Pokemon. Not a bad attack. I mean, there's a lot of Pokemon right now in our format that are basics that, you know, would be annoying to deal with. Something like Ogerpon or Miraidon or Iron Hands or Raikou V. Blood Moon Ursaluna would be the only exception to really big basics that would be annoying to deal with that this attack would block. So it's definitely an interesting attacker. And of course, it does synergize nicely with, of course, the brand new Stadium, that Area 0 Under Deaths. We've looked at this card already with Palkia V-Star, which is looking to be a pretty big new deck in the format. And this card is definitely no exception because it can make it so that if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, then you can have up to 8 Pokemon on your bench as long as the Stadium card is in play. Very strong effect. Terapagos being a Terra Pokemon means if you have a Terapagos in play, this card goes down, you can immediately bench up to 8 Pokemon. And benching up to 8 Pokemon is really good. We all know this card is very similar to the Skyfield Stadium card from the X and Y era, which is a fantastic card and definitely going to be a big new archetype here. So looking at the first Terapagos deck here, we're not going to go through every single deck. It's actually a pretty long page of decks. We'll be here all day. We're going to look at a few of the decks and see what people have cooked up here. The first Terapagos deck here we can look at is kind of a colorless box deck, and this is kind of the first thing that comes to mind. Since Terapagos is a colorless Pokemon, there's actually these really interesting colorless Pokemon in the format that you can synergize with Terapagos. So the first one is going to be the Fan Rotom here. With its ability, once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less, and then put them into your hand. You can't use more than 1 Fan Call ability a turn. Pretty strong ability, because if you're just grabbing a bunch of colorless Pokemon out of your deck, they can be basic Pokemon that you can then fill up your bench with for that Area 0 Under Deaths and for Terapagos' first attack, doing 30 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. Fan Rotom synergizes really nicely also with the brand new Noctowl line. Now, the new Noctowl line is a great new addition to the format and really good with Terapagos. It's got that fantastic ability, Jewel Seeker, where once you're in turn, when you just play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, if you have any Terra Pokemon in play, aka Terapagos, you can search your deck for up to 2 trainers and reveal them and put them in your hand. Very, very strong ability. Very similar to the Shady Dealings in Teleon, which was a defining card of its time. So having this ability back on a Stage 1 Pokemon with kind of a limiting rule, but even then, like, Terra Pokemon are pretty good. Like, there's a lot in the format you could play. Like, Noctowl is good. Well, not just Terapagos. There's a lot of Pokemon you could play this with. And, of course, having 100 HP means you can search it out with Fan Rotom, which is really, really good. So not only do you have a great engine in the deck with Fan Rotom and Noctowl, but you also have a great way to find your colorless Pokemon to put into play here. We can see this list here is playing a lot of different colorless Pokemon. It's even got a 1/1 Pidgeot in the deck. You can't get Pidgeot with Rotom, but you can get Pidgey. Also has Bibarel in the deck, another Pokemon you could grab theoretically with Rotom. You can't grab Bibarel but you can grab Bidoof. Now, interestingly enough, there's this new Bouffalant in the deck too, which is another Pokemon that might make colorless Pokemon even stronger here. Colorless Pokemon get a massive buff with Stellar Crown. It's got that ability where if you have another Bouffalant in play, your basic colorless Pokemon take 60 less damage from attacks. That's pretty good. I mean, 60 less damage is nuts. That effectively gives Terapagos 290 HP because it has 230 already. So really strong ability. That ability is nuts. You can even make your like Pokemon like your Pidgeot even more buffer. And of course, you can easily fill your bench up with Area 0 under depths so that you can bench the 2 Bouffalant, basically have the bench space for everything you want. Terapagos, Noctowl, Bouffalant, Pidgeot, Rotom, all that stuff can easily get benched with the Area 0 under depths, giving you the space you need to make this deck even stronger. The Bouffalants are really, really good, and the Pidgeot line's interesting. Another thing in this deck, we have the Dusknoir in the deck. Dusknoir, of course, being really good right now, being able to knock itself out but put damage on the board can be nice to maybe fix some damage for Terapagos' attack. Another build here, playing the colorless Pokemon, not really using any other draw engine in the deck here, as you can see. Just kind of sticking with the the Noctowl in the deck. I mean, Noctowl's a fairly solid draw engine. You don't really have to play Bibarel or Pidgeot, though you could, since they are colorless Pokemon. This build is not playing them. We just have the 3/3 Noctowl. Noctowl just being the better draw engine. There's Squawkabilly in the deck as like another pseudo draw card at the beginning of the game. Also plays Blood Moon Ursaluna in the deck. Blood Moon is also really good with Bouffalant, since it's already a pretty bulky, big, basic Pokemon. Combine that with Bouffalant, and it's even bulkier. Other thing is Iron Leaves. Now, the reason why it's Iron Leaves is, as you can see, there's a bunch of different energy types within the deck. Now, there's not just Double Turbo, which the original build we looked at did play Double Turbo because Terapagos had its first attack, which worked for a Double Turbo. Well, this build has a bunch of energy types because it can actually use Terapagos' second attack. But you're probably like, well, how are you ever using that second attack? How are you building up this Pokemon? How are you accelerating that energy into play? This deck doesn't really look like you can do that. Well, there's another new card that makes colorless Pokemon even stronger. Yes, a lot of colorless upgrades in this set. Not gonna lie. There's the new Glass Trumpet here. A very strong new card. You can play this card if you have any Terra Pokemon in play. Choose up to 2 of your bench colorless Pokemon, attach a basic energy from your discard pile to each of them. So, with the Glass Trumpet, you can accelerate your energy to the Terapagos and power it up really easily. You can just play like 2 Glass Trumpets and easily charge up that Terapagos out of nowhere and then start attacking with that secondary attack effect. Glass Trumpet is nuts. And of course, being an item card makes it searchable with Noctowl. It's just a really strong card, and that's what this deck is leaning into. The ability to play the Iron Leaves is nice because you're already playing the Grass Energy for Terapagos, and if you end up playing against something like a Charizard deck, it's not too bad to have the Iron Leaves because Terapagos doesn't really hit the highest numbers right now. Though it can be pretty bulky, you do have that Bouffalant combo. The deck even plays Bravery Charm in the deck so that Terapagos can be even more tankier with all the buffs included. Another build here, also playing the Bouffalant and the Ursaluna and the Noctowl. Not playing much else. Does have Radiant Greninja in the deck, though, as a mini draw engine. Also, does play the energies with the Glass Trumpet we looked at. Also, the ace-spec being Heroescape's interesting. Kind of like the Bravery Charm logic. You put the Heroescape on your Terapagos, combined with Bouffalant, and all of a sudden you have yourself a super tanky Terapagos EX. Like I said, Terapagos with Heroescape gets plus 100 HP. With Bouffalant, I mean, that's almost like 390 HP in total because that minus 60 damage reduction is so much. So definitely trying to lean more into the tankiness. Even playing Penny can be really good. Penny, Heroescape, Bouffalant seems like a pretty nasty combo, making Terapagos really hard to KO. And of course, Penny is searchable with Noctowl. Got another build here. This one plays Prime Catcher as the ace-spec. Does have Bravery Charm still in the deck. And also plays that Grass Trumpet engine here. The Grass Trumpet, the Glass Trumpet engine. Grass Trumpet, that would make Grass Pokemon a lot better, I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, another build here with the Noctowl stuff. We got another build playing Bibarel in the deck. I don't hate the idea of maybe playing a 1/1 Bibarel. Look, I'm a Bibarel enthusiast, and I mean, Iono's not going away anywhere. One thing, or not going anywhere anytime soon. But anyways, one thing to know, we haven't seen a Terapagos deck using Pheasantipity yet. Now, this build is playing Bibarel, also has Greninja in the deck for a bit more draw. And yeah, I like the idea of Bibarel. Like, again, you can grab Bidoof with Rotom and whatnot. It does play a new supporter, it looks like here. I gotta remember what the supporter was called. I think it was Crispin. Yeah, it was Crispin. Crispin is pretty good here. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energies of different types and reveal them and put one in your hand and attach one to your Pokemon. Another good way to power up Terapagos. Of course, Terapagos does need 3 different energy types if you're trying to lean into that second attack here, which a lot of the Terapagos lists we've been looking at have been doing that. That first list we looked at was solely focused on using Terapagos' first attack, but then we got this build here, which leans more into the ability to use that second attack. Another build here with the Noctowl, Rotom, playing 2 Iron Leaves instead. I don't know if Charizard is still popular in the format when this new set comes out. But if Charizard is still popular, then this deck, playing the Iron Leaves might have to be a necessary thing here. Another build playing a Bibarel. Also playing Serena's interesting. I see Radiant. And this build's interesting, too. Playing 4 Iron Leaves. This is kind of more of an Iron Leaves Terapagos deck. I guess Charizard must be that popular if these Terapagos lists are starting to really lean into Leaves. Because 4 Leaves is kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie. 4 Iron Leaves is a lot of Iron Leaves to play. Also playing Iron Jugulus is kind of cool. Never really sees a lot of play, but it's nice to see somebody try to make Iron Jugulus work. It's a Hydreigon. I'm a big fan of Hydreigon. It's the mascot on the channel. More Terapagos lists playing Pidgeot and Bibarel. The Pidgeot build is definitely interesting. It's not that hard to put Pidgeot in play. Like I said, you have Fan Rotom to get Pidgeot pretty easily, and you have Noctowl, which Noctowl literally gets you rare candy Pidgeot. So I don't know if Pidgeot's going to be good within Terapagos, but I don't know. I'm definitely going to experiment with the idea of playing Pidgeot in Terapagos. It's not a bad idea because Pidgeot, we all know, is a pretty broken card. I mean, it makes Charizard super good, so I wouldn't really be surprised if Pidgeot caught play within Terapagos. Like I said, with Noctowl and Fan Rotom, it's not that hard to easily set up a Pidgeot, and then with Pidgeot, because once you Noctowl, you can't really Noctowl again, right? It's only when you evolve it. So when you have Pidgeot in play, you kind of have that free ability every turn, right? So that's kind of the nice thing about it. Maybe Pidgeot's more of the draw engine in the deck over the Noctowl. The Noctowl can help set up Pidgeot, and then once you get Pidgeot out, you're chilling. Another interesting Terapagos build here, playing a bunch of different Pokemon in the deck. A lot of Trustles in the deck here. We got Farigiraf, which can be good against those basic decks. I mean, even Terapagos would be annoyed by Farigiraf. And then there's also the Wellspring Ogerpon and the Cornerstone Ogerpon. Cornerstone Ogerpon doesn't seem bad in the new format. There's a lot of new Pokemon with abilities coming out that Ogerpon can be good against, especially Charizard, which we all know Charizard can struggle against Ogerpon. Interesting enough, this build here, kind of just trying to be more of a wall build. It's only playing 1 copy of Terapagos in the deck. Kind of just more of like an annoying wall-type deck here. And then we got another interesting build here, playing 3 copies of Kangaskhan EX. That's definitely an interesting card to see. But Kangaskhan is kind of cool. You can build Kangaskhan up with the Glass Trumpet. Let me just find Glass Trumpet again here. You can build it up with Glass Trumpet, because it's only if you have a Terra Pokemon in play. You don't have to charge to a Terra Pokemon specifically. It can be any close Pokemon. So if anybody wants to have some fun with Kangaskhan, there you go. Monkey Dory is also an interesting inclusion in the deck alongside Boufflant, making it harder to KO these big basics. An interesting build here, a Darkrai Terapagos deck. So this one I also wanted to kind of highlight here. So Darkrai V-Star, of course we all know, needs to get Dark Energy in play to do big damage. And in this deck, you have a lot of energy acceleration. You have Janine and you have Dark Patch. But because you have Glass Trumpet, you can also use Glass Trumpet to charge up energy for your Darkrai. So Turbo Darkrai with Trumpet and Ogerpon, or Terapagos, sorry, might be pretty good because you can easily power up Terapagos with Glass Trumpet and get a bunch of dark energy into play. So I actually really like the idea of Turbo Darkrai in this new format. I think V-Star Pokemon are still going to be good. Regidrago, Palkia, and then now we have Darkrai. Darkrai, Terapagos, Glass Trumpet seems good. That's a lot of energy acceleration you have. Now, it's all from the discard pile, with Trumpet and Dark Patch, but still, you can get a lot of energy into play for Darkrai really quickly now when you essentially have, 6 Dark Patch in the deck with Trumpet and Dark Patch. Well, Trumpet can put even more energy into play, right? So it's, kind of crazy how good it is. Another funky Kangaskhan, Cullis, Terapagos box deck here. Terapagos Iron Valiant seems like an interesting concept. Iron Valiant's pretty good because it can get extra damage on the board. You do have to play a lot of switching cards, so this build of Terapagos kind of to offset that doesn't really have the Noctowl engine in the deck. But the Iron Valiant's definitely an interesting concept to play with Terapagos because you can hit really hard numbers with Terapagos. You combine that with a couple Tachyon bits, and you're one-hit KOing a lot more stuff in the format. Also does lean into the Glass Trumpet in this build. We see the 4 copies of the Trumpet. Another Darkrai Terapagos deck. Yeah, this might end up being a thing with the new set. Darkrai Terapagos might end up being a new thing with this. Because, yeah, it's pretty interesting when you have essentially 6 Dark Patch. I mean, if you wanted to, you could play 4 Patch, 4 Trumpet, and then you have 8 Dark Patch essentially in the deck, which is kind of crazy. So definitely excited to try out Darkrai again. Another Terapagos build. This one's playing the Dunsparce as an engine. Unfortunately, the Dunsparce can't get grabbed with Noctowl, or with Rotom, but Dunsparce can. It's an interesting idea. Still playing the Iron Leaves in the deck here. We got an Arceus Terapagos deck here. It's interesting. Also playing a 1 of Raikou. I really like the idea of playing Raikou in this new format. Raikou is really good with Area 0 under deaths because of its attack. It does damage for each bench Pokemon. So with that new stadium in play, Raikou hits some ridiculously high numbers. On top of that, Raikou is really good against Palkia V-Star. And if Palkia V-Star is coming back into the format as a top-tier deck, it doesn't hurt to have a really good counter in the format with Raikou. An interesting Terapagos build with Pheasantipity and a Monkey Dory in the deck here. I like the idea of Monkey Dory with Terapagos. Again, a bit of extra damage output you can do, has a bit of healing involved, and the Pheasantipity just being a nice consistency engine. Another grass build of Terapagos playing the Ogre Pawn. Ogre Pawn with Terapagos isn't bad either, because you have the extra Teal Dance, you can draw some cards, you have another Grass Attacker, which can help obviously into Charizard, and then of course also playing the Iron Valiant in the deck too for that extra bit of Tachyon Bits damage pressure. That's interesting to look at. Another colorless build here. This one's playing Gengar in the deck. Now, the idea of Gengar is not bad. It's a way to get a Pokemon to play for free. The downside of playing Area Zero Underdefs is if the stadium gets bumped or you run out of terrestrial Pokemon, all of a sudden, well, you don't really get access to the stadium, and then you have to discard Pokemon, and then you might run out of Pokemon to put in your bench because you have to constantly put Pokemon into play. So having the Gengar, is like a free way to put Pokemon back into play when you find another Area Zero Underdefs to put into play. Whoa, we got a Palkia deck. Now, Palkia Terapagos is going to be a thing. Palkia V-Star is seeing play right now because it's also playing Terapagos in the deck, I think. So it makes sense. This is like a colorless, or type toolbox deck. It's got Palkia, it's got Leaves, it's got Ogre Pawn, it's got the Terapagos, but also plays the Raikou. So just trying to be like a counter box deck, I guess, with all the different types and different options the deck has. It's not a bad idea. I guess Ogre Pawn could be okay into Palkia. Palkia does have the Palkia V, though, which doesn't have an ability, but Cornerstone could be good into Palkia. Another Terapagos deck here playing the Trumpets, playing the colorless attackers. With the Terapagos, has the Rotoms, got the Buffalon, playing the Ursaluna, does play that Iron Leaves. So yeah, Iron Leaves might be a staple within Terapagos if Charizard sticks around. We'll have to see if Charizard sticks around, however, in this new format. Another build with Dusknoir. Yeah, I do like the idea of playing Dusknoir in the deck too. I mean, Dusknoir, Dusclops, just very strong cards. While you're giving up a prize, you are still able to do extra damage, and sometimes you can even knock stuff out with Dusknoir. And you can KO like opposing Noctowls, KO opposing Bibberolls, Buffalon, stuff like that. So definitely a lot of value in playing Dusknoir in this new format, in my opinion, with all the bench support Pokemon that are coming out. But that'll be it for the Terapagos decks. There's a lot of Terapagos decks to look at here, and I want to be here all day. So we're going to move on now to Galvantula EX, another new EX card. That is, of course, a stellar Pokemon. And we'll take a look here at what Galvantula EX does here. It's an interesting card. Now, it's got the attack Upper Thread. Does 110 damage for Lightning and Colorless. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX or V, does 110 more damage. So it gets to do 220 damage. Not too bad. Keep in mind, being a Lightning type is relevant in this format because it is going to hit for weakness against Palkia. And then you have the attack here for a Grass, Lightning, and a Fight Energy. You do 180 damage. You discard all energy from this Pokemon. And then during your opponent's next turn, they can't play any items from their hand. So we got a new item lock attacker within the format in the form of Galvantula. We got Bayonetta in the format. We got Venomoth, and now we're going to have Galvantula, which Galvantula does do a ton of damage. 180 damage is a lot of damage to do. Now, it does have to discard all the energy, but I'm sure we'll see some cooked lists. Now, the first list here, interestingly enough, is playing Regis. So, Regis kind of makes sense with Galvantula. Now, Regis gets a massive buff with this new set. One of the things that I'm really excited for is for Regis to be good again. I am a big fan of the Regi deck, and it's really nice to see Regis get a bit more playable with Area Zero Underdefs, because what you can do is you can put all your Regis in play down Area Zero Underdefs, or, well, I guess you have to put a terrestrial Pokemon down first, and then you play down the Area Zero Underdefs, and then you can put all the Regis in play, but then you can put other Pokemon into play too, not just your board has to be just Regis, which is kind of the limiting thing with playing Regis is your deck has to just be Regi Pokemon. There's nothing else you can do. You can do some cheeky things with Thornton, but for the most part, has to stick to the Regi board. But when you get the Area Zero Underdefs in play, you can actually bench a ton of Pokemon, and you can actually use Regigigas' ability to charge up other Pokemon, not just Regis. Regigigas' ability can charge up your Regis, but you can also build up other attackers, and you can use Regigigas' ability to constantly charge up Galvantula and just spam item lock every single turn. You discard the energy, and then you just use Regigigas' ability to put the energy back into play, and then just keep beating your opponent down with item lock every turn. Galvantula is a Terra Pokemon, so the Area Zero Underdefs will work with it. It's a very fascinating concept, and I cannot wait for Regis to be good. There's a lot of Pokemon you can play with Regis, not just Galvantula. You can see in this build is also playing Cornerstone Ogre Pawn and Terapagos. And all right, we got a Galvantula Lightning Box deck here. Now, another thing I did want to note about Galvantula might not have like the greatest energy acceleration. You can maybe use other things with it, but one of the main things is actually going to be the Joltik here with its attack, Jolting Charge for colorless energy. You can search check for up to 2 basic grass energy and 2 basic lightning energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Pretty powerful attack. I mean, you're putting 4 energy into play, which is insane. Now, Joltik is a 30 HP basic Pokemon. It's easy to knock out, but you get so much value out of that. That's a lot of energy. I mean, this attack alone charges up Ampu very much, which is ridiculous. So Joltik is also a big upgrade for these Galvantula decks. And in this build here, it does play the Joltik as a way to build up your Pokemon. Just have Miraidon, which can get you a bunch of Joltik down. You can just Joltik to your Galvantula, and then you can Miraidon out the Joltiks and stuff. Does have the Iron Hands, does have the Raikou. Again, playing these Lightning Pokemon is still very valuable within our format if stuff like Palkia is going to be popular. Another Galvantula build here with the Miraidon engine. Yeah, Miraidon Galvantula seems good. Miraidon looks pretty good in this new format, just because Miraidon, is just still really fast, can donk stuff, and of course, being a Lightning type will be relevant into the Palkia decks in the format, but then having the Joltik will also be nice to have now as a way to build you up without relying solely on Generator. One thing I wanted to note is actually the A-Spec that these decks are playing here. We'll pull up the A-Spec here. Where is it? Where is the spec? Sparking Crystal. There it is. So yeah, you'll see these decks are playing this card here. It's a tool card. Attacks the Terra Pokemon this card is attached to. Costs 1 less of any energy type. So yeah, you put this on your Galvantula, you can just kind of remove an energy type in its other item lock attack. You can remove the fight energy cost. You can see these two decks are playing that Crystal because it's really good with Galvantula because you can take out one of the energy costs. You can take out the fighting energy costs, and then Galvantula just needs lightning and grass energy to do the item lock attack. And it still has Generator in the deck, too, to attack with the other big Pokemon. Iron Hands, Galvantula is a pretty dirty combo. You're either using Item Lock, or you can threaten the 2 prizes with Amp. We got another Reggie build here of Galvantula. Is Galvantula going to be the best way to play the Reggie deck? I'm not too sure, but I'm definitely excited to give it a try. We got an interesting build with Blissey and Noctowl. Now, Noctowl is an interesting concept because what this deck is trying to do is trying to use Glass Trumpet to charge up your Blissey. So Galvantula is the terrestrial Pokemon, and then you have Blissey in the deck with its ability Happy Switch. You can move the energy around. So what the deck tries to do is it tries to use Glass Trumpet to put energy into play onto your Blisseys from the discard pile with Galvantula in play. You can use Glass Trumpet, put 2 energy on Blissey, and then you move the energy off 2 Blisseys with Happy Switch to the Galvantula, and then you can attach for turn for the last energy type you need for the item lock attack, or you can use that tool card here. You can see I forget what it's called. It's a tool that when you discard energy, you can pull 1 back from the discard pile at the end of your turn. So you can use this, and you can fully charge up Galvantula every single turn with the combination of Blissey and Glass Trumpet. You can easily spam the item lock attack with this combo. It's a really interesting idea. Blissey's a very bulky Pokemon. It's not really a liability, which is nice because it has 300 HP. It's not a bad attacker either. So yeah, I like the idea of Galvantula Blissey. Another really interesting concept here that could end up being good when the new set drops. We got a Blissey Venusaur deck. Now that's interesting. I'm not sure how good Venusaur EX is going to be, even with the new A-Spec Stadium, which I guess we can look at here. This deck does play the new A-Spec Stadium here, which looks pretty good. The Great Big Tree A-Spec is very strong. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a Stage 1 Pokemon that evolves from one of their base Pokemon and play and put on that Pokemon to evolve it. If they do, they may search deck for a Stage 2 Pokemon that evolves from that Stage 1 Pokemon and puts it into play. You can't use this card to evolve a base Pokemon during your first turn or when the Pokemon comes into play. So you have to wait to evolve the Pokemon. It's not like Broken Time Space, where you can immediately do it. You have to wait a turn, but it does allow you to immediately skip all the evolution lines, and this can get you Venusaur into play. And I mean, this card is just insane. It can be good with Charizard, good with Pidgeot. Any big Stage 2 Pokemon is going to adore the Great Big Tree, and this deck is playing it with Venusaur. I'm not really sure what the synergy is with Venusaur and Galvantula, but I mean, it's cool. I guess Venusaur can heal. I'm not too sure. We got another Blissey Trumpet build here of the Galvantula deck. Again, that combo, being able to move energy with Blissey and then Glass Trumpet, it's really, really interesting concept. And then it's going to be a lot of fun to try out that deck, too. And we got our Raging Bolt Galvantula deck, so that's interesting. Let's see here. It's playing Energy Switch, no Glass Trumpet. So I guess that's interesting. So it's a Raging Bolt Ogre Pond deck with the 2-2 Galvantula line. Maybe Galvantula can be good into, the Palkia matchup. You can also attack with it. I mean, Galvantula, I guess, does need Lightning, Grass, and Fighting. It's the perfect energy requirement for the Raging Bolt deck, which already happens to play that literal energy cost, which is kind of funny. So I guess naturally playing it is fine. It does have Energy Switch in the deck, which I guess is how you charge up the Galvantula. Yeah, I'm not too sure you can really pull off the item lock, though. If Glass Trumpet was in the deck, maybe be a little bit better. Well, I guess you can't Glass Trumpet to Galvantula. I lied. Never mind. I take that back. Yeah, I don't know. The synergy is interesting, though, with Raging Bolt. We got another Blissey build here. Once again, the Glass Trumpet Blissey concept. Another Blissey build. And yet another Blissey build. Probably a lot of Blissey builds here of Galvantula. Yeah, we got another Blissey build. This one does play a 1-of at Teal Mask Ogre Pond, which is cool. And then we got yet another build here of Galvantula with Terapagos, actually. Interesting stuff. So I guess you can like use Terapagos as like a backup attacker. You have Joltik to put the energy in place. Still has the Rotom and the Noctowl in the deck. And we got yet another lightning build of the Galvantula deck with the Iron Hands and the Miraidon. Probably going to be another popular way to play Galvantula. Those are all the Galvantula decks here to look at. Wasn't as much as the Terapagos decks, but there are a lot of interesting ways to play it. You have the Miraidon, you got the Reggie build, you get the Blissey build. Those are like the three main ways to play Galvantula. I'm pretty excited to try out these builds of Galvantula because, again, item lock is very valuable. The fact that you're also doing 180 damage is a lot of damage. Like with Bayonet, I mean, you're only doing 30, and 30 damage doesn't get the job done a lot of the time. But with Galvantula, 180 damage is putting on so much damage, and with the item lock pressure, it's going to be really insane. So definitely excited to try out these Galvantula decks. All right, finally, we got Hydrapple decks here. Another new EX that I'm excited to try out. It's a brand new Grass-type EX, which will be relevant. We can look at what Hydrapple EX does here real quick. So Hydrapple is a Stage 2 Pokemon with the ability, once you're in turn, you may attach a basic Grass energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. If you attach energy in this way, you heal 30 from that Pokemon. Very similar to an old Sceptile we used to have that did the exact same thing. And then, of course, you have the attack Syrup Storm, which for 2 cost energy does 30 plus 30 more damage for each Grass energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So essentially, you just try to put a ton of Grass energy into play, and then you just hit really hard. And of course, Hydrapple does have some good synergy in the format with its own ability, but also with Teal Mask Ogerpon, which is another way to accelerate Grass energy into play, which is really cool. We got this first build of the Hydrapple deck here, playing the Teal Mask Ogerpon in the deck. The nice thing, too, is you do have the Dipplin in the deck, so you have a decent Stage 1 attacker, I guess, or... Yeah, well, you have like another interesting attacker. I don't think Hydrapple evolves from Dipplin. I'm actually not too sure on the lore on that. Yeah, it doesn't evolve. Oh, it does evolve from Dipplin. I'm actually trolling. Okay, yeah, you have Dipplin in the deck. You have a decent Stage 1 attacker with Dipplin. But you're probably not going to play Festival Grounds, even though the deck does play the Festival Grounds in the deck here. It does have the Great Big Tree. Probably a really good A-spec for the deck. You can use Great Big Tree to immediately put your Hydrapples into play. I can't really think of like the best other A-spec for the deck, but Great Big Tree could be good. I mean, being able just to immediately put down a bunch of Hydrapples out of nowhere gives you a ton more energy acceleration, and then out of nowhere, you're just funneling a ton of energy into play for Hydrapple's attack to do a buttload of damage. So it makes sense to play that. Another build here with Ogerpon. A lot of the Hydrapple builds are probably going to be kind of similar because it just makes sense to play Hydrapple with Teal Mask Ogerpon. I don't know if there's any other big grass Pokemon you could theoretically play in the deck than just the Ogerpon. Ogerpon makes the most amount of sense. I'll say this bug catching set's really good. Grass Pokemon might finally get the buff they need with this new set, with Hydrapple, and of course with bug catching set already being in the format. There's a great way to easily find your grass Pokemon and your grass energy, making it pretty good. The A-spec in this deck is Scoop Up Cyclone, which is interesting. This A-spec also is interesting to plays Hero's Cave. This build of Hydrapple plays a 1/1 Pidgeot. I mean, if you're already playing this, rare candy, why not try to squeeze in a Pidgeot line? I mean, Pidgeot's a pretty good card, right? So I don't hate the idea of playing Pidgeot within the deck to help you out. Yeah, a lot of search in this deck. You got Ultra Ball, Buddy Poffin, Nest Ball, and Bug Catching set. So you're definitely finding all your Pokemon whenever you need it. And then I guess you have like the mini support of Fez and Mew. You don't really need to play like a Bibarel engine. You don't need like a huge draw engine like Noctowl in the deck because like you just kind of have Ogerpon, Mew, Fez, and if you want to play the Pidgeot, I guess you can. It's a lot of draw you already have naturally in the deck. Another build with Ogerpon is Scoop Cyclone as the A-spec. Another Ogerpon build. Like I said, pretty straightforward stuff. We're going to see a lot of Ogerpon Hydrapple decks here. We'll see if there's any other interesting builds. This one's interesting, playing Hisuian Lilligant V-Star, which isn't a bad idea. The deck doesn't really have a V-Star power, but when you play the Lilligant V-Star, you do get a V-Star power. Lilligant's V-Star power can get you a bunch of grass energy and grass Pokemon and then put them into your hand. So Lilligant can be a great way to find your resources for the Hydrapple decks. That's kind of cool. So I really like the idea of playing Lilligant in the deck too. Just grabs you all your grass Pokemon all at once. You just put them all into play immediately. Lilligant could be pretty good in the deck too. I don't hate the idea. You can also charge up Lilligant with Hydrapple. Lilligant does do 230 damage if you put a grass energy attachment back in your hand. So it can be a great way to knock out other basics. It does enough to like one-shot Terapagos without the Bouffalant. So could be some relevance to playing Lilligant with the deck. I don't hate it. Lilligant isn't really like the biggest liability. It is a V-Star Pokemon with 260 HP. So I guess it's like slightly weaker, but still like not a bad option to have in the deck to help set you up. This build also uses Lilligant. It's interesting, all these builds are playing Scoop Up Cyclone. I'm not sold on if it's actually good or not, but I don't know, Scoop Cyclone I guess could be cute. I don't know how good it actually is, like I said. Another build, Lilligant. A lot of Lilligant builds here. You got another build here, just kind of straightforward stuff with the Ogerpon, another Ogerpon build. Yeah, let's gonna scroll through here and see if we can find any non-Ogre Palm builds. Just see the most unique builds. All right, this one's got Toadscruel in the deck. I don't hate the idea of Toadscruel. You can block the effects of attacks. You can block stuff like Frenzy Gouging and Dragapult, which will still probably exist in this new format. They're probably not going away anytime soon. You can also play the other Toadscruel, which can block Pokestop and Legacy Star, which is kind of cool, and Superior Energy Retrieval, so that could be kind of nice. So, like a Toadscruel build of Hydrapple doesn't seem bad either. You can also attack with Toadscruel. You have a ton of energy acceleration with Hydrapple and Ogerpon, so it's really not that hard to make Toadscruel actually hit pretty high numbers. The other thing I want to note about Toadscruel in this deck is you have Area 0 Underdefs. I can't wait to try this out. Toadscruel with Area 0 Underdefs is nice because basically what you can do, put the Area 0 Underdefs into play, and then what happens is you can benchmark Pokemon. Toadscruel maxes out at 280 damage. Well, if you put Area 0 Underdefs in play, I think it does like 400 damage, which is nuts. So Toadscruel can do some insanely high numbers with Area 0 Underdefs in play, knocking out anything in one hit. So I really like the idea of trying out Toadscruel with the deck too, because you can get a bit of protection, you get that other Toadscruel for some extra blocking, and then of course, with the Area 0 Underdefs as your Stadium card, you can do a ton of damage with Toadscruel if all of your Pokemon on the bench have Grass Energy on it. This thing is just a one-shot machine out of nowhere, so it might even be better than Hydrapple at that point. Hydrapple can hit hard, but you gotta put a lot of energy in play. But when you have the Toadscruel, you can just do a lot of damage for, like, maybe less work. We'll have to see on that one. Another Lilligant build here of the deck. Another Ogerpon build. This one's got a Cornerstone Ogerpon in the deck. I mean, hey, you know what? It is what it is. Cornerstone Ogerpon, spicy. Probably good into, like, match. I don't even know, like, what a Pokemon abilities is, like, blocking. Because you should probably be fine against Charizard. I mean, I guess Radiant Charizard kind of changes things. Maybe you do need the Ogerpon as, like, to offset potentially the bad Charizard. Well, not even the bad Charizard matchup, but for, like, Radiant Charizard. More Lillian action. We got another Toadscruel build of the deck. Yeah, I really like the idea of playing Toadscruel. Screamtail EX is weird. Another build here. Does have Toadscruel Lilligant, but not the Toadscruel EX playing the other baby Toadscruel. It's interesting. Kind of makes no sense not to play the Toadscruel EX, though, still, if you're going to play the 1-1 Toadscruel. But, yeah, whatever. More, builds here with the Ogerpon. Another build here with the 1-1 Toadscruel in the deck. Yeah, I like the idea of Toadscruel a lot. I don't know if it's the main way to play it, but it'll be fun. If you're going to play Toadscruel, you definitely want to play with Hydrapple and Ogerpon for sure. More Lilligant builds. Great Big Tree. Is Great Big Tree the best ace-spec for the deck? It might be, because again, being able to immediately put Hydrapple into play does seem pretty nice. So honestly, the tree ace-spec is probably going to be the best way to play it for sure. More Ogerpon builds. Another Ogerpon build playing Pidgeot. A lot of Ogerpon builds. Yeah, it's all Ogerpon. Like, it's the best way to play Hydrapple. Just kind of is what it is. Another Toadscruel build, and whoa. Got our Regidrago V-Star build. I guess that's interesting. You can technically use Hydrapple to put energy on your Drago. Okay, because this build isn't playing any Ogerpon. It actually relies on the Hydrapple to power up the Regidrago. I mean, that's interesting. Creative thinking outside the box. I rate the idea. Another build here with Raging Bolt is interesting. I guess, yeah, Raging Bolt is interesting to play in the deck because you can use Hydrapple to put energy into play in your Raging Bolt for what it's worth. And you have the Joltik in the deck too, which is kind of cool. And you already have the Ogerpon, so yeah, that's interesting. Hydrapple can, funny enough, be squeezed into Raging Bolt. Not sure if it's actually good, but it could be kind of cute if somebody were to make it work, I guess. And that's it for the Hydrapple decks. Like I said, you got to play with Ogerpon. There's not really any other partner that's set in stone. The idea of playing with Lilligant, Toadscruel are also really cool options, but Hydrapple is definitely looking pretty good. And it'll be nice to have a new big grass deck in the format, because it is nice to have grass Pokemon when something like Charizard EX does exist. But those are all the new archetypes I want to look at in today's video. We got Hydrapple, Galvantula, and then, of course, we had Terapagos EX. So I think Terapagos is probably going to be the one that's going to see the most amount of play out of these three decks. It seems like the biggest one. There's a lot more options of how to build it, so you expect to see a lot of Terapagos decks going forward. I think this new set will be legal for the St. Louis Regionals. Or sorry, Louisville Regionals, not St. Louis, my bad. Louisville Regionals in Kentucky in October. So that'll be the first major tournament with the new set. I'm not sure if it'll be legal for LEIC or if Surging Sparks will be legal for LEIC, but we are going to get a big tournament in October with this set. It'll be interesting to see how the meta shakes up, because right now Terapagos does look like it's the big new flashy deck from the new set, but like Galvantula and Hydrapple do look like they're also going to be good decks when the new set comes out. And I cannot wait to play these new Stellar Crown cards when the new set comes out. A lot of new decks to try out and all that good stuff, and I'll probably look at more Stellar Crown decks very soon as we lead up a little bit closer to the launch of this set. But if y'all are new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 17K subs. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. What deck are you most looking forward to out of these three decks? And what way would you want to play the deck if you were to try out these new decks? Like I said, I'll leave a link to Pokebook down in the description below, the site I use for today's video, if you want to go copy any of these decks for yourself for the future or anything like that, or highlight them when the new set drops. Definitely check it out down below. And that'll be it for me. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on another video. Bye-bye.